beyond that and focus more on the solutions, the correct direction, how to do it right, and who's doing it right, and how to help other people do it right. And so it is with that optimism and positive welcome, I welcome you to this Healthy Foods Local Farms Conference. My name is Hank Brady, and I have been doing this for a while, and it's a great pleasure to do it.
One of the things that wasn't mentioned is the provost is also the person who, when there's no toilet paper in the restrooms, gets to call and say, "Need some toilet paper over here." So those of you that have experienced that, we're taking care of it. It's always a bit intimidating for me to address a group like this because so many of you have been so committed to healthy foods and farming for so long that we here at U of L are really kind of latecomers getting into this. And so in many ways, you all know much more about this than we do.
This change we were trying to enact is going to have to happen one shared meal, one garden, one kid at a time. How do you get from Turn Thursday to the new way of life? Persistence. You, me, we are going to have to change the world.
Our friend, Brother David Andrews, always said, eating is a moral act. And that is a lot of what my work is about, is trying to get people to think about the ethics behind their food choices. It's not just, again, whether or not to eat meat, but what are the implications of the choices you make for your food. She was no longer able to hang her laundry outside because it would smell like hog manure. And she was telling me how she couldn't really sit outside anymore because she didn't know when the stench from the hog operations was going to roll into her yard. And how frequently she was afraid to sleep at night in the summer with her windows open. And this is the home that she had lived for pretty much her entire adult life and raised her children in. And now all of a sudden she couldn't enjoy living in her own home anymore. So as I'm being told about all this and I'm being driven around by this group of folks, I'm thinking to myself, this is way more than about just food. Here we have people's lives that are being radically disrupted. We have water pollution, and we have a system of raising animals that for their entire lives is keeping them in miserable condition.
This vision, in no doubt many versions, exists because it is attractive to some of us. But also we're going to see it enforced from the outside, so to speak, by the increasingly manifest failures of industrial forms of land use. I don't think I need to say a lot about these failures beyond just listing them. The principal ones are these. 1, erosion and degradation of the soil. 2, pollution by toxic chemicals, resulting in unswimmable streams, inedible fish, and a 6,000 square mile dead zone, one of at least 400 worldwide in the Gulf of Mexico. 3, toxic or pathogenic food. 4, forest ecosystems damaged or destroyed by high grading, clear cutting, tree monocultures, and so on. 5, land destruction on a gigantic scale by forms of surface mining culminating in mountaintop removal. 6, destruction of rural communities and the cultures of husbandry. To speak of the need for settled families and stable communities in rural America is to imply at the same time the necessity of extensive and profound cultural change. Good and responsible use of family-sized holdings cannot be expected of people with the dependent and subservient minds of industrial employees. What is required are people independently intelligent and resourceful, skilled in handwork and practical thought, who have forgotten about official channels and overtime. If your community is making its living primarily by the export of raw materials for manufacture elsewhere, then along with your logs or your wheat or your cattle, you are exporting jobs. And then you will be exporting your young people to take those jobs. All that is clear enough. We have seen it happen. I am perfectly aware that in this age of economic fantasy and ecological catastrophe, my advocacy of local economies of land use will sound radical. That is because radical is what it is, and radical is what it needs to be. If we're going to alter our presently ruinous ways of using our land, we have got to get to the roots of the problem.
Would it be possible for me to make this better? But I won't get it right.
This is extraordinarily well-coordinated, organized opposition to our movement, which is very scary. There's a lot of money behind it, a lot of power behind it, and they don't want to see this kind of change that we're pushing for happen. I see this actually as a great, and almost fantastic sign. And I go back to a line from Gandhi, which was this idea that first they ignore you, then they fight you, and then you win. I see the fact that now that they're disagreeing with us, now that they're fighting with us, as a sign that we're a threat, a really legitimate threat. I see that as a really good sign.
We have the responsibility for our children of the future. I have faith in our children of tomorrow. That's what I was just so impressed with what Sam is doing. He's a young man, he's got all these people together, but it takes somebody to have an idea and move that forward. That's the reason why I have real hope for the future. Over the years, I have learned that God is present in the great work of caring for creation and the environment. This beautiful planet is God's gracious gift to us. Caring for creation has deepened my relationship with God and others. It has given me a better understanding of the relationships of communities and the environment in those communities. We are responsible for our brothers and sisters. And as we talk about food and all of this, people who do not have food, we have to help them obtain that food.
It is a part of how we organize. Organizing is a matter of asking one person, and then asking another person, and asking another person. And in this case, you have been asked, and the person probably who is most symbolic of the call to you is a Loma Dude. And so at this time, I think it's appropriate to thank the Loma Dude. News, or the real news, you will see a Monsanto ad that now says Monsanto bringing you sustainable agriculture. And when you see that ad, and you see Monsanto trying to pull up the name sustainable, your first response is probably horror, or fear, or anger. But I want to ask you to go to your second response. If Monsanto is trying to cloak itself with our clothes of sustainability, if Kegels is trying to cloak itself in the clothes of locally produced, then we must be winning. This is a good sign. It is something that is horrifying. We must fight it, but it is a sign that we are on the right course, and if we stay the course, then we will get agricultural back where it belongs.